Okay, so getting ready to do an interview. I'm just going to read you some things from Chapter 8 on page 187. If you happen to have a book at home, you can read it along. I'm sure most of you don't, and that's okay. I'm going to read it, and you can check it out later when you get back to school. An interview is a formal meeting, usually face-to-face. Now, unlike small group discussion, which has to be face-to-face, absolutely does not include those phone conferencing calls. Sometimes you will interview on a phone first. That's very difficult. I want you to think about that, especially because this is a speech class. If you're not there face to face, what does your voice have to say to make sure that everything that you need them to hear about you is heard? Remember, that high percentage of what we communicate is done non-verbally, with my eyebrows and my eyes, with my smile, with my posture. None of that is on a phone. So if your first impression that you're going to make in an interview is on a phone, what are you going to need to do with your voice to make sure that that works? Just right now, you can listen to my voice. Look away, hear what my voice is doing. Is that energetic? Does that sound like I'm excited? Does that sound like I'm ready to go to work for the person? As opposed to talking like this, which doesn't sound energetic at all. Have to be careful. So usually an interview is face-to-face because, quite honestly, employers know that most of our impressions are made face-to-face. Now, if they're hiring someone to only talk on the phone, maybe they only want a phone interview because they want to know what kind of a phone impression you make. But other than that, it's probably going to be face-to-face. And your interviews are going to be face-to-face. So do like I'm doing. Do a little video. See what your face is doing. Does it make that impression that you want it to make? Okay. People obtain information by asking questions during an interview. An interview is an exchange. I want you to think about that an interview is an exchange. Someone is going to ask you questions. It's a 5-minute interview, and during that 5 minutes, you should be doing most of the talking, not the interviewer. You should be taking every opportunity that you have to tell that interviewer what you want them to know about you. Very important. It's an exchange of information. And then the interviewer is probably going to say to you, so is there anything that you would like to ask me about the job or about our company? If you say, no, I'm good, they're going to think, really? There's nothing you want to know? There should be some things that you want to ask them, some things that you want to know a little bit more about. It says that you, first of all, know what you're talking about enough to ask questions and care enough to ask questions. So they'll be looking for that information from you as well as the questions from you during these interviews. What is it that you should be asking? Okay, the interviewer is the person who conducts the interview by asking the questions. And the interviewee is the person who responds to the interviewer's questions. But there is an exchange in that, back and forth, especially in a job interview. So keep that in mind. However, an interview is not a one-way form of communication. The interviewee can also ask questions, and 3 common types of interviews are, get these in your notebooks, hopefully they're at home, the job interview, this is how you get a job, the school interview, how you apply to a school, and of course that's your last speech, is a school video, as if you were kind of interviewing one-sidedly with a school, and then the informative interview. I used to work for a newspaper. I think I told you that I worked for a newspaper once at a time. And I was a reporter, and I interviewed a lot of people. And I would ask them questions. And sometimes they would ask me questions too. That kind of an interview is usually a little more one-sided. But we've learned that communication requires us to ask questions, clarifying questions. So when you ask me that question, I think what you want from an answer is this. Is that what you're looking for? We can still ask those kinds of clarifying questions in any kind of an interview and make the interview go better and the communication more successful. So in Chapter 8, we will be learning how to interview and how to get a job most specifically in this particular part. Okay, so it says on page 188, preparing to be interviewed. Since you can expect to face a number of important interviews, you want to be well prepared for them, and you should be. The following suggestions can help you get ready for, we're going to say, job interview. So first of all, read the advertisement carefully. You should have in front of you an advertisement for 4 jobs that we're going to be filling at my pretend restaurant, Fisher Enterprises. Okay, these jobs are not real. I am not hiring for any real jobs. Sometimes there seems to be a confusion about that. I made up this organization, Fisher Enterprises. I made up those jobs. Actually, one of my students decided that we should sell fish, so that's what we sell. And this is just an opportunity for you to practice applying for these jobs. But you should apply for these jobs as if they were real, using your real qualification. My jobs are made up. Your qualifications are not. That was my great nephew. So, make sure that you're using your real qualifications to apply for these jobs. Now, you can look at me and say, I would never apply for these jobs, Mrs. Fisher, and that's okay. We're going to talk about that later on, how if you might decide in the end you don't want these jobs and how to deal with that situation. But for right now, you're hungry, you need a job, you need one of my jobs. Which one are you going to apply for? And you're going to apply for it with your real qualifications as if it were a real job. Got it? Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is something that probably you would not do for these kinds of jobs. They're entry-level positions, they're minimum wage jobs, and normally in a situation like that, you would go into Fisher Enterprises, wherever it's located, and by the way, it's located at 2100 Park Avenue, Burley, Idaho. Okay, but you would go into that place and you would ask for an application and you would fill it out, and you might attach a resume to the application, but probably wouldn't even do that, and you certainly would not use a cover letter. But for some other jobs, they want a cover letter. They want that letter that highlights the job that you're most interested in at their organization, why you think you're the right person, and how you're going to be the person that they want to interview. See, they're going to get a lot of resumes. They're going to get a lot of letters. And somehow in this letter, you have to make an impression, a written impression that gets you to the interview. Now, every one of you are going to have an interview. That's guaranteed, because you have to have an interview to get your grade. But in real life, that isn't guaranteed. And so this cover letter is really, really important. So first of all, I want you to look at the actual application. The actual announcement that you were handed out. It says that Fisher Enterprises is hiring for a cook, is hiring for a drive-through receptionist, customer service greeter, and then an office manager. Those are the 4 jobs that we have. Okay? And it tells you that you need to send a cover letter to whose attention? My attention, right? Mrs. Fisher. That's important information. Okay? Now, do you know what these jobs are? You maybe don't. Well, I want to know what they are. So how would you find out? If this were a real advertisement and you didn't know what the drive-through receptionist was exactly to know if you were interested, how would you find out? Yeah, I'm giving you a minute to think. Well, I hope you came up with this answer. You could ask someone you knew who already worked there. You could call Fisher Enterprises, and there's not a phone number listed, so how could you find the phone number? Yeah, I'm giving you a minute to think. Google it. Use the old-fashioned phone book. And there's an address. So if you can't find a phone number, you can always go by and ask, right? Okay. None of those things are available to you right now. So let me tell you how you're going to do this. The cook is a cook. someone in my restaurant who cooks fish, because it's a fish restaurant. Now, it's pre-made frozen fish, so they have to use a deep fryer to fry the fish, and we also bake our fish. They have to fry French fries and corn fritters, and they also have to warm sides that we have that are frozen. Corn, baked beans, things like that. Drive-through receptionist, that person at the drive-through who says, "Hi, welcome to Fisher Enterprises. Can I take your order, please?" Takes their order, takes their payment, hands them their change, and then hands them their bag and makes sure that their bag is what it should be as they hand it out the window. Customer service person, that's the person that greets you when you actually walk into the restaurant. "Hi, welcome to Fisher Enterprises. Could I take your order today?" Again, make sure that you get your food in a timely manner, maybe answers some more questions, passes out some more tartar sauce if you need things like that. That's that person. The next person is the office manager, the office assistant. We have a little office at our fast food restaurant. In that little office, we have file cabinets, things that need filed, a phone needs to be answered. We have messages that need to be taken, orders that need to be sent out, and as well as maybe some correspondence need you to take care of for me, for my manager, things like that. What a normal person would do in an office job. So those are the 4 positions, and that's the description of the jobs that you'll be applying for. Choose one that you're most interested in. And if you're kind of interested in 2 equally, you can say that, that's fine, but it's better to highlight one at the beginning, and the experience that you have, or the education that you have, or the combination of those things that make me say, "Oh yeah, that's the person I want in that job." Definitely want to interview them, definitely want to check out how they're going to do, and maybe even hire them for the job. Okay, so now you know the jobs. Now it's time to write this cover letter. This is the introduction. Let's turn off for right now and then go find the video on how to write a cover letter. That's the next thing that we're going to be doing.